Hey friends, it's me, the Ebony Otaku, the well-rounded nerd. I am food nerding out today because I don't know where you are in the country, but in my part of the country, there's a whole ice storm blowing through, and that makes me want a hot bowl of some kind of noodle soup. And I thought, well, you know what? That means I can do two videos today. One about noodles, as I promised last time, and then also I think I'm gonna make hot pot tonight, which will have noodles in it, close enough. So I think I'll do a hot pot video as well and show all of you how I enjoy hot pot. We are continuing our journey in stocking our pantries with awesome Asian ingredients. If you live in a great city like I do, then you have a wealth of options when it comes to noodles. Noodles kind of fall in the dry ingredient category, but they're really their own special category. They're a super great ingredient, but you have to have the right noodle for the right application. I have my favorites. I'm not going to go over every noodle that exists in Asia because we would be here for the next 5 years. But I am a connoisseur of certain ones, and there are certain noodles I like to keep in my pantry because they have a wide range of applications. So let's go ahead and talk about the noodles. First, let's talk ramen, which probably in most Western countries is the noodle most people are familiar with. A lot of times our earliest association to ramen is college because, it's like, they're 20 cents each and you got your chicken flavor, your beef flavor, your whatever flavor, and, you got your little packet of salty whatever that is, dried veggies, you throw it in, you got a cheap 20-cent meal. Keeps you fed while you're studying. We're gonna go a step further than just that. There are so many types of dried ramen out there and many ways you can cook them. That's gonna be something I'm excited to explore, is different ways to cook ramen. You can turn noodles into a bigger dish than just a soup. So they're a lot of fun. It's a very versatile ingredient. Here's my personal go-to when it comes to ramen. Like all my ramen dishes typically start with this one. Shin Ramyun. This is a Korean brand, and it's red because it's spicy. Now, how spicy something is a matter of opinion. To me, this isn't super spicy, but I also have a big old tub of gochujang and a big mason jar full of gochugaru in my pantry too, so that's where I'm judging from. But if you're not a huge fan of heat, you don't have to use the packet. You can just use the noodles and whatever you want. I prefer this brand, one, because if I do just want to eat the sauce packet with the noodles, it's delicious. But secondly, when it comes to doing other things, these noodles tend to hold up pretty well. I have stir-fried these. I have done noodle soups with them. I have turned them into a type of pancake before. And they don't disintegrate, and that's what I like about them. Some of those cheaper brands that come to the Americas, they're exported and they're cheap for a reason. If you try to do anything but make the instructional soup out of them, it's not gonna be good. And that's what I love about these. You can do lots of things with them. Now, staying in the ramen family, you don't always have to have dried noodles. You can get fresher noodles. Let me say that right, fresher noodles. In my Asian grocery store that I love to go to, you have these. These noodles are fresh, meaning they haven't been dried out and so that they last on your shelf for 10 years. These do have a shelf life to them. You keep them in the fridge and you pull out what you need. These have a chewier texture, and that's one of the things I love about them. One of the great things about a good noodle is it should be a little chewy, or depending on where it came from, a lot of chewy. And you get that more with a fresher noodle. Now, if you want to be adventurous, you can make these at home. I've made ramen noodles before. I'd rather buy them. There's a couple of noodles out there that are really hard to find, and if I really want them, I'll attempt to make them. But on the whole, I leave my noodle experiences to the experts and just purchase their hard work. You do you, though. Now, that was the ramen family. Now we're gonna move into udon. I love udon noodle soup. It's Japanese. If you've never had it before, an udon soup, of course, is another clear broth soup, but there can be veggies in it. Those are the ones you might see the big prawn fried in it. It's similar to ramen, but it's a different type of noodle. And the different noodles give you different experiences. Of course, like any soup, it can be spicy, it can be mild, but usually it's a clear broth base from what I've seen. And there's a couple of brands that I love. There's this one that has wording on it that I don't know what it says, but I love these. I've had good luck with these. I'm gonna get them closer to the camera. What side is my camera on? There it is. Notice how it's a wider, flatter noodle than the ramen. And it will pick up more of that goodness of the broth and soup. And that makes a difference as well. So depending on what type of noodle you use, you're gonna have a different experience in getting those ingredients out of the bowl. Then there's this brand, and I absolutely love these. These are Hakubaku Udon noodles, and organic because I guess I'm fancy, I don't know. But I love these as well. They have a long shelf life, and if you notice, if you look inside the packaging, you see those, can I get it to focus? No. Ah, there it is. Okay, I got it to focus. If you see these little bands, those are kind of what the portions should be. I find for just me, I have to pull these bundles in half because that noodles, spaghetti, it doesn't matter what kind of noodle you're looking at, it always cooks up to be 10 times more than what it looks like it's gonna be. So I half these little bundles, and for one person that ends up being perfect. And then we have these Shanji Noodles. These are Chinese noodles. If you're making a dish that requires like an egg noodle or just a Chinese noodle like biang noodles, I might be saying that wrong, this is the one. They are like the udon, they grab onto sauces and flavorings really, really well, and they have an amazing texture. This is the brand that I buy. Don't ask me what any of that says. I don't know. But it was recommended to me, and I have been purchasing this brand ever since. This happens to be a new package because I just recently ran out. But this will last me because this is double wide. So, I mean, there's 10 bunches of noodles in here, and I cut those in half for just me. So I've got 20 servings in here, and you saw how many other noodles I have. So this will last quite a long time. These are really good in like a beef stew. You can do an egg noodle soup with them. They're good for dipping as well, just like the udon noodles. So versatile. The last noodle I want to look at is, it's so simple and they cook so easy, and when I make hot pot, this is the noodle I typically go for. They're in a huge bag, so I'm just gonna pull them out of the bag. Let me get a bunch out. There they are. These are rice vermicelli noodles. I love these because they have no taste of their own, like none, no flavor. Whatever you put them in, that's what they're gonna taste like. And that means you've got to do real good on your soup stock because they're gonna pick that up. They're so good for dipping. One of my favorite just snack meals, just a little bowl of these and like maybe some Laogan Ma. It's chili paste sauce. Some Laogan Ma, dip it, call the day done, delicious. Or take these, pour a little oyster sauce and sesame oil on them. That's all you need. All you need. Same thing with rice. I mean, they're rice noodles. So you can take rice, hot rice, just crack an egg on top, put a little sesame oil on it, you're done. That's the only meal you need for the day. And the noodles do the same thing as the rice. They cook really, really fast. So when you put them in your hot pot, you kind of have to be careful about when you dump them in the hot water because you might end up with disintegrated noodles. Any of these noodles, if you cook them too long, they lose their good chewiness and eventually they will fall apart. Noodles don't last forever in broth. You know, I have chilled noodles overnight in the fridge. Nobody at me in the comments. I have chilled them overnight in the fridge and eaten my leftovers the next day. It's okay. It's not nearly as good as, you know, eating it fresh and eating it hot right then. And you don't always have to eat noodles hot. There are a lot of cold noodle dishes out there. One of my favorite ways to eat udon noodles is as a dip noodle. So you take the noodle and you have a dipping sauce. So the noodles cooked, they could be hot noodles or cold noodles, typically cold. And you pick up your noodle and you dip it in your sauce and you just, let me tell you, that's a good way to spend the summer. There are so many uses for different types of noodles. Be creative. When I started learning how to cook with noodles, it was a little intimidating because, like a lot of people, my only experience with noodles was in soup or spaghetti. That was all I knew about noodles. But when I started exploring other Asian recipes and what you could do with them, well, then I started getting, more creative, not just with Asian recipes, but crossing those over with the Western flavors that I grew up with. There's a lot of ways you can prepare these things. There have been times where maybe I've substituted spaghetti for a different type of noodle, or if somebody I'm cooking for has very special dietary requirements, I can typically go to the rice noodle for them, and because it's so easy to portion these things out, you don't waste food. And who hates throwing food away is me. I try to eat in portions and prepare my food in portions that I'm actually going to consume. If I'm not going to eat it, it can stay in the packaging. And when you're using dried goods like this, they last for a long time. I'm not going to say indefinite, but noodles that are dried, you've got them for a while, especially if you store them correctly. So I hope you explore some of these. I think next the thing to do is let's make some hot pot. So in the next video, join me and we're gonna have a nice warm dinner together on this snowy evening. Now, I'm new at this and I don't have much of an outro yet. However, if you enjoyed the video, please like, comment, subscribe, share it around, and I hope to have a chat with you about your favorite noodles in the comments.